EmpauR would like to advise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners that the following podcast may mention names of people who have gone before us into the stars and the dreaming. EmpauR acknowledges the Gimuy-walubrra indinji people whose traditional lands this podcast has been recorded on. We pay our respects to the ongoing cultural connection that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to hold with the land, sea and wind.
Mayam, Seo Napa. Welcome to our Torres Strait series podcast, where we share information about Torres Strait Island cultural protocols through conversations. In today's episode, Exploring Language and Identity, we dive into the tapestry of languages spoken in both the eastern and western regions of the Torres Strait Islands. These languages are not just a means of communication, but are vital threads that weave together the cultural identity of the elders and families in these regions. Bala Reggie Powell will yarn with Arab Island elder Uncle Poi Pensio and Bardu Islander Bala Gerald Bowie to unravel the intricate web of languages and discover how they foster a deeper appreciation for our linguistic heritage.
For this episode, we take a closer look at diverse language spoken in the Torres Strait region, especially from your part of the region, the eastern part of Torres Strait. We can also, get you to talk about crucial and the importance of your language, such as also your identity, and there's many ways that your language can be taught or raise awareness through people or wider community that is not from your area. And also, how can it sort of encourage the wider community on how to appreciate or, for us to understand your linguistic heritage.
So we understand that I'm from the Eastern Torres Strait, and our language is Miriam Mir. And I suppose in order to educate people from outside of our language boundaries, the process we need to use is elders must be contacted at a very offset. One, in terms of permission and rights to speak our language and to ensure the language are used correctly around the issue of discussion. In terms of practicing the language and share the knowledge around language must take into consideration there's some things it's taboo we can talk about and some things we can't talk about. The other part is if the language will play a very big part in terms of healing and getting the message across. There are man business that only men can discuss in language in depth around the issue of man business. Only the woman can discuss the similar process, woman business around language. So in terms of education, in spite of we can teach people outside of our language boundaries, that language, but correctly it has to be used by men for men's business, woman for woman business. Language has to be respected the way it's used. So in order to translate language, the elders' advice to even myself was always not only to talk and explain and using the language, but it has to practice in action. Also, that will confirm to us that you understand the language in terms of how you practice your care or the way you come and associate with us, or even providing care for our people. So the action must be in full flight to ensure that we understand, you understand our language.
Well, culture is part of our way of life. So as a Torres Strait Islander, we unique to our language. And we carry the words we speak every day. So I think it's important that everyone trained into a base word, cultural words, or even undertaking, or it's part of the cultural awareness training. Or wording, what we speak, it is very important because it makes us who we are as a Torres Strait and Aboriginal people.
A web of language. And also fostering linguistic, cultural language appreciation. I know you said a few things around example of diverse language, but is there anything you might want to add to it, especially on guide on, for the broader community to take and respect language in a diverse setting, coming from a trusted elder, and how can we ensure that our voice are heard and valued for in such system of aged care?
So as we know, Torres Strait, even though we are small in numbers and size of the geographical area, we diverse in, I suppose, 5 sections, this different language to different parts of Torres Strait. But the common language we use is Creole. So most of us we seems to communicate across all the different language groups. Creole, we use Creole most of the time. Now and then we speak different language for the different group as part of conversation. The reason why we go down that path and using Creole instead of Miriam Mir talks about Kalaulagaya language. It's taboo in the sense of communication, and it's a law that we need permission to do that. But in most cases, in terms of care, we're not all there, so that's why we're using Creole. But at the very outset, we were advised from our forefathers to say that we must not write, we must not exploit, we must not write our language. They safeguard our language from writing it down because of misuse and misinterpretation. So we use Creole because Creole is English that was broken down, that we can break it down any way and which way we like because it's not our language. So the diverse language is very respected throughout the Torres Strait. Only the group from that island or that division of that Torres Strait could speak those languages.
Well, I speak 3 languages, so I speak Kalakalaya, Creole, and Standard English. Most people around Torres Strait, the language we speak is Creole, which is used constantly around Torres Strait. Most have different dialect, most speak different language in 4 groups of Torres Strait. I highly recommend Creole to be the most outstanding language to be taught beside our 4 cluster group languages.
Topic number 3, around exploring rich tradition.
So as an elder from the Eastern Torres Strait, our traditional practice in an organization that provided care for our families. I think the key element for us today, our traditional practice must be embedded into the policies and procedures of the organization that provides services to us. It has to be written into the policies and procedures, not only in terms of provided services, but around the management decision, service provision, and also as part of evaluation, and also take into consideration, you have to embed a research around how our traditional practices are fit into the organization. Now, the key element around traditional practice, it has to build into the organization around the cultural orientation to a staff or the old organization. It has to operate on a monthly basis to the organization and to new staff that comes into the organization. It has to build in and it has to involve community, elders or members that has responsibility around ensure traditional practices are provided. So in terms of our well-being for elders in aged care or in the community, those things has to build into the system and has to be given on a monthly basis to the management, to the organization, and to staff on an ongoing basis. So our traditional ceremonies and ritual, the elders has to be involved, the community has to involve, and our aged care, our clients, they has to involve in all ceremonies and ritual. They need to come off the facilities and involved in wherever we provide the ceremony or ritual within the community or other sites. For example, if the elders are mobile under your care, if the ritual or ceremony are in the islands, they should be attending the ceremonies and ritual because this is how we live and this is our strength, this is our health, that they need to be involved in those ceremonies or rituals. In spite of where the size and cost, if you want a true reflection of the care you provide.
I think we need to see more professional indigenous groups working in aged care, so because they love more a better background when working with indigenous clients. So I guess if we look at our wider organizations, they need to employ indigenous group and train them into professionals, like into mainstreams, and also would be good. We have indigenous officers also in place to engage with local leaders, local people, and the wider community, which we can have more understanding when we communicate. There's always a language barrier problem with Indigenous people, especially my people, Torres Strait, of understanding, and we do carry that with us. Hopefully, in the future, we will be more aware and we have more understanding when dealing with professional people.
As we wrap up this episode, we hope you've gained a deeper appreciation for the incredible linguistic diversity found in the Torres Strait region. These languages are not just words, they are living treasures that connect communities and preserve centuries of culture. By listening to the voices of native speakers, we can bridge gaps and strengthen our bonds as humans, united by the beauty of language. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey into the heart of linguistic heritage. Funding for this podcast has been provided by the Council on the Ageing Queensland Home Care Workforce Support Consortium as part of the Home Care Workforce Support Program, which was funded through grant funding from the Australian Government.